Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I think I'm going to start here. Texas has introduced a bill to ban central bank digital currency. So now we have Florida and Texas have bills to ban. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this CBDC stuff pans out. I've said for a long time, like anything, this will be good or evil. We're about to find out how this all pans out. I thought this was great. For those of you that don't know, this picture right here is Brad Garlinghouse in Switzerland when he was at a Swiss banking conference and was sitting in the room with probably at least 10 to 20 central bankers. Everybody from Hong Kong to Russia, you name it, was in that room. And it's one of the many reasons that I've been so focused on this one company, this one digital asset for all these years, is the things like that occurred. But I just wanted to point out that that's the same guy at XRP Las Vegas that was in the room with all those important people, which makes his appearance at XRP Las Vegas that much cooler. Now, Jeremy, the other day, Stuart Alderati had tweeted about the SEC, and he was talking about, the same old stuff, the SEC versus Ripple. But Jeremy Hogan was summarizing it here. I was going to do a reason number 3 XRP was not sold as a security tweet this week, but Stu Bill beat me to it and did it better anyway. The REVAC case lays it out well, and based on the court record, XRP was not sold as a security at least since 2018. And I wanted to make this point. That's part of the reason I wanted to cover this, is that don't forget, this case, most likely, the judge is going to point to some sales from either 2008 or 18 or before and the judge could easily say, well, that was a security sale, that was because of X, Y, and Z. What I believe this thing, I've been saying it, I know the oranges themselves were not a security, so XRP itself, and in the secondary market is not a security. So those two things are what I think we get out. I think the judge will point back 2018 before and say some were, and then I believe that some of it will be go to trial or whatever and go forth as far as what they'll be allowed to do. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, this thing can end in about 50 different combinations, but I think the things I just said are, for the most part, should be involved in it. Now, this whole, we don't talk, I mean, we joke about, but we're not into meme coins is ridiculous. I've always thought so, whether it's dog coin or any of these things, whether it's Pepe or, we don't chase green candles, at least I don't on this channel. I stay focused on the adult things is kind of the way I see it. But my question is, and it's really not a question, I think our government is probably behind a lot of this stuff for a reason. Why is the SEC not investigating this? I often wonder if some of these meme coins are engineered by the government to keep the focus on the shady side of crypto and hold them up as examples. Look at this. This Pepe was launched less than 1 month ago. It already has 3 times the volume of XRP, 7 times the volume of ADA, 32 times the volume of Algorand, 70 times the volume of Quant and HBAR. But they sue Ripple. They're not focused on Pepe or any of these, because I think that's part of the plan. And Yassin Mubarak, in my opinion, he has it right here. He's right over the target. Pepe is a Trojan horse meant to further blow up crypto, just like FTX was. The playbook is clear by now. Introduce a scam project, pump it massively until it attracts gullible masses, then blow it up, blame everything on crypto and how dangerous and full of scams it is. Use that to further attack and suffocate crypto. Rinse and repeat. And then this guy says, coins like Pepe don't happen by accident. Big money, powerful people, and careful planning goes into creating these scams. You're just a pawn in a much bigger game. And games like this have cost many people their lives. Don't be an effing idiot. Okay? I agree with all of that, but I think that it is the government. Now, speaking of the government, bankruptcies are up 216%. High since the 2008 financial crisis. Here's Peter St. Onge. Is that how you say that?
New data says bankruptcies are exploding, up 216% on the year, higher than the 2008 crisis and almost double the COVID lockdowns. Now, this is all before the recession even officially begins. In fact, Joe Biden's last word was that this economy is, quote, strong as hell, which the news tells us he ventured, quote, while munching a waffle cone. Not a joke. Now, last week, the S&P reported its tally of U.S. companies going under hit 236 in the first 4 months alone, more than double last year. A separate study by UBS found $10 million plus bankruptcies are now running almost 8 per week, which is almost double the peak level of the lockdowns. Now, the problem here is the worst of the bankruptcies usually don't come early in a recession. They come a year or two in. Yet here we are seeing them before the show even begins.
Oof, that's scary stuff. Now, I want you to see this clip. This is Ron Paul back in the game. This guy says the end game is to devalue the currency before introducing the new system.
Congress, in essence, has ceded total control of the value of our money to a secretive central bank. Congress created the Federal Reserve, yet it had no constitutional authority to do so. We forget that those powers not explicitly granted to the Congress by the Constitution are inherently denied to the Congress, and thus the authority to establish a central bank was never given.
Exactamundo. Then I wanted to show you this. This is interesting. Well, first let me show you this. This is Zimbabwe. This is that story about them creating a gold-backed digital tokens, and the IMF tried to rebuke them. I think the IMF was probably saying, well, we don't want to have to tell the world that you have weapons of mass destruction there, you know. But they did it anyway, and they've sold 14 million, folks. We've got to be close to the end game, because when countries start doing those types of things, all it's going to take is one major country, and then why would you want to own anything that's not gold-backed?
Thanks.
This is Stanley Druckenmiller, a billionaire. Listen closely to this. We'll listen to 2.5 minutes of it. You got to hear it.
It was your recommendation. I read Edward Chancellor's The Price of Time. As you know, I've been saying for years that my observation was the worst economic outcomes tended to follow asset bubbles. I was only looking at the past 100 years or so, and Edward Chancellor's book, in a real tour de force, describes how this has been going on for over 500 years. And basically every time you've had interest rates below 2%, going back 500 years, it's generally been followed with difficult economic times. So if you look at the current menu, I think it was actually just a little over 2 years ago, I went on national television and said we had monetary policy that was the most reckless and extreme relative to the economic circumstances I had ever seen. And at that time, inflation was 2.5%. You had a booming economy. You were coming out post-COVID, and it was clear post-vaccine that we were on our way to maybe the most rapid recovery I had seen in my lifetime. I was not surprised about a year later that inflation reached 9%. I was not surprised that SPACs went crazy, Bitcoin went crazy, Dogecoin went crazy, equities went crazy. What I was surprised by was that for the next year, while all that happened, Jerome Powell's Fed continued to have their foot on the gas. They continued to buy $120 billion of bonds a month while rates were zero. This obviously led to everything I just described. Then, realizing they had probably made the biggest mistake in the history of the Fed, they slammed on the brakes. They've raised rates 500 basis points in the last year. We know historically two things which you've already articulated. Number one, the worst economic outcomes tend to follow too easily engineered asset bubbles. And number two, big maxim in my business, don't fight the Fed. So I'm sitting here staring in the face at the biggest asset and probably the broadest asset bubble, forget that I've ever seen, that I've ever studied. It went on for 10 or 11 years, and then as the grand finale, the government spent $5 trillion on COVID. The Fed financed 60% of it. And as I just described, now we have a big hike in interest rates.
What a mess. What a mess. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. What a mess.